Welcome to the Innovation Series, where I take you on a journey to build complex technology from scratch, step by step, from idea to reality. The main topic of this video is about a contract. I will explain what a contract is and who needs to work with this contract. Most importantly, I will demonstrate how to derive a contract from the activities chain. What is a contract? Simply speaking, a contract is a statement that identifies the device's requirements. A contract consists of a requirements statement. In our context, the device is the catapult. The requirement for the operation and the function will be stated in the contract. For the sake of the argument, let's assume we have a contract. What do we do with it? Under the assumption we have the contract ready, we as the innovator shall present the contract to the subject matter experts. This is the initial process of engaging with an external party. Innovation rarely happens in isolation. Accessing external knowledge and skills is an essential process of innovation. For the next process, what will the experts do with the contract? After the experts receive the contract, they will read and examine it to determine if building the device as specified is feasible. If they believe it is impossible to build the technology according to the contract, they may reject it or request revisions. If they think it is feasible, they'll accept the task. Typically, they will negotiate for the financial compensation before starting any work. This is a crucial cycle in complex technology development. It requires collaboration among multiple experts, so communication between all parties must be formalized and standardized. This highlights the importance of the contracting process. Creating a contract is a crucial skill in the development of complex technology. The wording must be clear and unambiguous, and the requirements must be systematically derived. Consistency must be maintained throughout, from the primary concept to the activity chain and the contract itself. Inconsistent contracts can be costly, as experts may build something that doesn't align with the original intent. A well-structured and systematic contract ensures that the product remains consistent from conception through to production. Now that you know how important the contract is, what contract are we going to make? What I am showing you here is the contract that we are going to make. The contract consists of several requirements items. In this case, we have 8 requirements from requirement 1 or R1 to requirement 8 or R8. Each requirement item is derived from the individual activity in the activities chain. Since our case involves 8 activities, the contract includes 8 corresponding requirements. This approach ensures consistency between the contract and the activity chain. You may have noticed that the difference in wording between the activity in the activities chain and the requirement in the contract. In the requirements, the focus is on the device and what it must accomplish. In contrast, the activity describes interactions between the device and the entity, and vice versa. This difference exists because the activity chain helps us, as innovators, document the interaction between the device and the entity. On the other hand, the contract is designed to communicate with experts, serving as a contractual guide for building the device. Let's continue with the formula, how to derive the contract from the activity chain. This is the formula that we use to derive the contract from the activities chain. If the activity in the activities chain is operational type, or we label it as formula FC1, then use the wording, the device shall provide the entity with the ability to. If the activity in the activities chain is functional type, or we label it as formula FC2, then use the wording, the device shall. Apart from the operational and the functional, The activities chain implies some relation between activities. If one activity is occurring when another activity is also occurring simultaneously, in this case we label it as formula FCR1, then use as long as. If one activity is triggered when another activity finishes, in this case we label it as formula FCR2, then use as soon as. For the current level of complexity, this formula is sufficient for deriving a contract from the activity chain. As the complexity increases in the future, additional formulas will be introduced to address the transition from activity chains to contracts more comprehensively. Let's do a practical example and apply the formula to derive the contract from the activities chain. The first activity, or A1, the user transfers mechanical energy to the catapult. To convert this activity into a requirement, then we need to determine which formula to apply. Because activity 1, or A1, implies the user or the entity performing operation to the catapult, then activity 1, or A1, is an operational type. Because A1 is an operational type, then we use the formula FC1. Therefore, we convert it to the catapult shall provide the user with the ability to transfer mechanical energy to the catapult. This requirement specifies the operational aspect of the catapult, ensuring that the expert understands how the catapult is intended to be operated. The second activity, or A2, the catapult stores energy from the user. Similar like before, we need to determine which formula to apply. Since activity 2, or A2, implies that the catapult or the device performing the action, then activity 2, or A2, is a functional type. Because A2 is a functional type, then we use the formula FC2. Therefore, we convert it to the catapult shall store the energy. Let's examine this activity more closely. The intention is for the catapult to store energy in response to the mechanical energy transfer from the user. This creates a relationship between A1 and A2, where A2 occurs while A1 is happening. Thus, besides the formula FC2, we need to apply formula FCR1 as well. The application of the formula FCR1 requires the addition of the phrase as long as. By combining formulas FCR1 and FC2, the requirement becomes, as long as the user transfers mechanical energy to the catapult shall store the energy. The third activity, or A3, the catapult detects the projectile's container reaches a ready position. Let's determine which formula we should use. Since the activity 3, or A3, implies the catapult of the device performing action, then activity 3, or A3, is a functional type. Because A3 is a functional type, then we use the formula FC2. Therefore, we convert it to the catapult shall detect the projectile's container reaches a ready position. Let's examine this activity more closely. Is there a relationship with the previous activity? After examining it closely, the answer is yes, there is a relationship with the previous activity. We want the catapult to detect the ready position while it is storing the energy from the user. This involves combining formulas FCR1 and FC2. When both are applied, the requirement becomes, as long as the catapult is storing energy, the catapult shall detect the projectile's container reaches a ready position. The fourth activity, or A4, the catapult locks the projectile container in position. By examining the owner of the subject of this activity, we can already know that this is a functional type. Because this is a functional type, then we use the formula FC2. Therefore, we convert it to the catapult shall lock the projectile container in position. Now, let's examine this activity more closely. Indeed, there is a relationship with the previous activity. We want the catapult to lock the container immediately after it detects that the projectile's container has reached the ready position. This creates a relationship between A3 and A4, where A3 triggers A4. In other words, A4 occurs immediately after A3 finishes. Thus, besides the formula FC2, we need to apply formula FCR2 as well. The application of the formula FCR2 requires the addition of the phrase as soon as. When both formulas are applied, the requirement becomes as soon as the catapult detects the projectile's container reaches ready position, the catapult shall lock the projectile container's position. This concludes the first half of the contract. In the next video, we will complete the contract by deriving more requirements from the activities until all activities are covered by the requirements. Looking forward to seeing you in the next video.